The rain fell hard that evening, pouring down from a heavy gray sky. Streets glowed under the flickering lights of the colony town. People rushed to shelters, pulling their jackets tight, faces hidden under umbrellas. It was cold, lonely rain, the kind that made even machines hum quietly. Evan walked slowly, his boots splashing through puddles. He had just finished a long shift at the cargo docks. His hands sore, his jacket soaked through. He didn't mind the rain. It helped him think. He was used to being alone. No family here, no close friends, just a small room and long nights. As he turned the corner near the old tram station, something caught his eye. A figure stood in the middle of the street, motionless under the downpour. The light from a neon sign blinked red and blue across her body. At first he thought it was just another lost traveler. But then he saw her skin, pale silver glowing softly under the rain. Her hair shimmered faintly like moonlight. She wasn't human. She stood there trembling, trying to clean herself using the rainwater that dripped from the roof above. Her clothes were torn, her hands shaking. She rubbed at her arms like she wanted to wash something away. Mud, maybe blood. A few humans nearby passed quickly, pretending not to see her. They kept their eyes low. No one wanted trouble with aliens these days. Evan stopped. He felt a strange pull in his chest. Something about the way she tried to hide her face made him step closer. "Hey, are you all right?" he asked softly. The woman turned fast, her eyes wide with fear. Her pupils were shaped like diamonds, glowing faint blue. "Don't come close," she whispered, her voice cracked and hoarse. "Please don't." He lifted his hand slowly. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." She backed away, pressing herself against the cold wall. Her breathing was fast. Rain ran down her cheeks, mixing with tears. Evan could see dark bruises along her neck, as if someone had grabbed her hard. He frowned. Whoever she was, she'd been through something terrible. "You're going to freeze," he said. "You need shelter," she shook her head. "I can't. They will find me if I go inside." Her voice broke on the last word. Evan looked around. The streets were empty now. Only the sound of the rain and faraway thunder remained. "Who will find you?" he asked. Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. He sighed and took a step back. "Look, I have a small apartment nearby. You can take a shower, get warm. I'll make some tea. You don't have to tell me anything." The alien woman blinked at him, confused. "Why?" she asked. "Because you look like you need help," he said simply. For a long moment she said nothing. Rain kept falling around them, the wind pushing water down the street like a river. Then slowly she nodded. "Just for a moment," she whispered. Evan led the way through the narrow street. He kept looking back to make sure she followed. She walked quietly, her bare feet splashing in puddles, head lowered like she was afraid to be seen. At his building, the elevator was broken, so they climbed 3 floors up. She was breathing hard when they reached his door. He opened it and stepped aside. "It's not much, but it's dry," he said. The room was small. 1 bed, 1 couch, a table covered with old tools, and a heater humming softly in the corner. He handed her a towel. "Bathroom's through there," he said. "Hot water works." "Most of the time." She hesitated in the doorway. "Thank you," she said, voice barely a whisper. While she went inside, Evan sat on the couch, rubbing his hands together. He wasn't sure why he'd done this. Helping an alien could cause real trouble. Some colonies didn't like outsiders. But something in her eyes reminded him of the time he'd lost everything. The same mix of fear and pride. Minutes passed. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. Steam drifted out through the crack in the door. Evan looked toward it and sighed. He hoped she wasn't just using him, but his gut said otherwise. Then, suddenly, a small sound broke the silence. A quiet sob from inside the bathroom. Evan froze. He wanted to knock, to ask if she was okay, but he didn't. He just sat there, listening to her cry softly under the water. When she came out, she was wearing one of his old shirts, far too big for her small frame. Her silver skin looked cleaner now, glowing faintly in the warm light. Her eyes were tired but calmer. "I don't know your name," he said gently. She looked at him for a long time before answering. "My name? Doesn't matter," she said quietly. "Names bring danger," Evan nodded. "All right then. I'll call you Rain for now." A faint smile crossed her lips, the first he'd seen. "Rain," she repeated softly, like it was the first safe word she'd spoken in years. Outside, thunder rolled again, louder this time. Lightning flashed through the window. Evan stood up, closing the blinds. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "No one will bother you." But when he turned back to her, he saw something that made his stomach twist. A faint glowing mark on the back of her neck, like a burned-in symbol. It pulsed once, then faded. He didn't ask what it meant, but deep inside he knew this woman carried a secret, one that could change both their lives forever. And somewhere outside, through the storm and darkness, something mechanical hummed. A search drone, scanning the streets for someone exactly like her. Steam filled the small bathroom, fogging up the cracked mirror and the old tiles. The sound of running water echoed softly through the apartment. Evan sat on the couch, staring at the closed door, his mind filled with questions he didn't dare to ask. Who was she? Why was she so afraid? He could still hear her faint movements behind the door, like she was scrubbing away more than just dirt. Maybe memories, maybe pain. The smell of soap and steam mixed with the cold scent of rain still drifting from the window. After a while, the water stopped. Silence. Then the door creaked open. The alien woman stepped out slowly, wrapped in one of Evan's old towels. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the yellow light. Drops of water slid down her neck like tiny glowing pearls. She looked cleaner, calmer, but her eyes still carried fear, deep and old. Evan stood and handed her a shirt. "It's not much, but it's dry," he said. She took it without speaking, clutching it close like it was a gift from another world. Then she went behind the curtain to change. Evan turned away politely, staring at the rain streaking down the window. When she came out again, the shirt hung loosely around her, reaching her knees. She looked fragile, like she could break if someone spoke too loudly. "You should eat something," Evan said, heading to the small kitchen. He poured hot water into 2 cups and dropped in tea leaves. The woman watched him carefully, as if trying to understand why he was helping her. "You risked yourself," she said quietly. "Humans don't help my kind," Evan shrugged. "Not all humans are the same." She sat on the couch slowly, still cautious. Her eyes roamed the room, the peeling paint, the broken lamp, the stack of repair manuals on the table. She seemed almost surprised by how ordinary it was. After a few moments, she asked softly, "Why did you stop for me?" Evan looked at her. "Because you looked lost," he said simply. "And no one deserves to be left in the rain." Something flickered in her eyes, a mix of sadness and disbelief. She held the cup in her hands but didn't drink. Instead, she stared into the steam, whispering, "Where I come from, kindness is a trap." Evan frowned. "A trap?" She nodded. "If someone offers help, they usually want something in return." Her voice trembled and she placed the cup down. "That's how they control us." He sat across from her, his curiosity growing. "Who are they?" The woman stayed quiet, her hands gripping the cup tighter. Her breathing grew shallow. Then slowly she turned her back toward him, pulling the shirt collar down just enough to reveal something strange. Burn marks across her skin, shaped like tight rings. "They did this when I disobeyed," she said. "When I refused to finish my work." Evan's stomach twisted. "Work? What kind of work?" She met his gaze. "Weapons," she whispered. "Machines made to erase humans. They called it peacekeeping. I called it murder." He stared at her, speechless. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping against the window like impatient fingers. "They said I betrayed the Empire." She continued. "They sent hunters. I ran for days. They tracked my blood through the rain." Evan leaned forward. "You mean someone is still after you?" "Now?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, even now." Almost on cue, a faint beeping sound came from the window. Evan turned sharply. A small red light flashed outside and a hovering drone scanning the buildings. "Stay down," he whispered. He rushed to the window and pulled the curtains tight. The sound of the drone moved past, humming low and sharp like an angry hornet. For a long moment, they both stayed silent. When it finally faded away, Evan exhaled and turned back to her. "You can't go back out there," he said firmly. "They'll find you." "I have nowhere else," she said, voice barely a whisper. Evan looked at her. Really looked. Beneath the alien features, the strange glowing eyes, the smooth metallic skin, she looked human in her pain. "Lost, desperate, and alone, you can stay here," he said. "Just until it's safe." Her eyes widened. "You'd let me stay? Even after what I told you?" He nodded. "If I were in your place, I'd hope someone would do the same." For the first time, she smiled faintly, small but real. "You are strange for a human," she said softly. "Yeah," Evan replied, half smiling. "I've been told that before." Thunder rolled outside again, deep and distant. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The woman wrapped the towel tighter around her and whispered, "Thank you, Evan." He blinked. "You know my name?" She nodded slightly. "It was on your tools. You fix things," he chuckled. "Yeah, I try." But even as he smiled, his mind was racing. A hunted alien scientist hiding in his small apartment. This wasn't something he could just ignore. And deep inside, a feeling he couldn't explain began to grow. Something between worry and connection. He didn't know it yet, but that night's choice would lead him into a war he never asked for. And a bond that would shake two worlds. The night deepened. Rain still whispered against the window, soft but endless. Evan sat by the dim heater, trying to keep his eyes open. Across the room, the alien woman, whom he still called Rain, slept curled up on the couch under a blanket. Her breathing was calm now, almost peaceful. He should have felt relief, but something in his chest stayed tight. He couldn't shake the image of the marks on her back or the way she spoke about being hunted. Every thunderclap made him glance toward the window, half expecting a red light to blink again. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. Evan rubbed his tired eyes and decided to check the comms unit. It was an old device used for work updates, colony alerts, and local news. But when he switched it on, the screen flickered strangely. Static filled the small room. He frowned and adjusted the antenna. For a moment, the noise stopped, then came back sharper, mixed with strange, whispering sounds. "Rain, subject, Sector 12. The voice wasn't human. It was distorted, like metal grinding against glass. Evan froze. The words repeated, broken and eerie. He turned the volume down, afraid to wake her, but Rain was already sitting up, eyes wide and glowing faintly in the dark. "Where is it coming from?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My comms," Evan whispered. "It's just interference, maybe." Rain shook her head. "No, that's not interference. That's tracking speech." "What?" "They use sound bursts hidden in static. It's how hunters talk without open signal. They found the area." Evan's heartbeat quickened. "You mean they're close?" She stood up fast, pulling the blanket aside. "I have to go. I can't stay." "Wait," he said, stepping in front of her. "It's storming out there. You'll be seen." Her eyes flashed fear and anger. "If I stay, you'll die too." Before he could answer, the comms crackled again, this time louder. The distorted voice grew clearer. "Target last seen entering Structure 3B. Thermal signature confirmed. Proceed with scan." Evan's blood ran cold. "That's this building." Rain backed away from the window. Her breathing turned quick and shallow. "They're here." Without thinking, Evan rushed to his tool cabinet and grabbed a small EMP jammer he had once repaired for a miner. "This can block scanners for a few seconds," he said. She looked at him with disbelief. "You do that and for me?" "Less talking, more moving," he said. "Bathroom vent, go through there. It leads to the next block." She hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll follow, go." Outside, a faint mechanical hum grew louder. Blue searchlights cut through the storm, sweeping across windows. Evan could hear the buzz of hover boots and the hiss of energy rifles being armed. He set the jammer near the window. Its light blinked red, then green. The hum outside faltered for a second, enough time for Rain to climb into the vent. She looked back at him, her eyes glowing softly. "Don't let them see you." "I'll try not to," he said, forcing a small smile. Moments later, the apartment door rattled. Someone was outside, metallic fists pounding hard. "Colony patrol." "Open up for inspection." Evan froze. If he stayed silent, they'd break in. If he opened, they'd search. He grabbed a wrench from the table and shouted, "Hold on. I'm coming." He moved to the door slowly, trying to keep his breathing steady. When he opened it, 3 armored figures stood in the hallway. Their suits were black and reflective, their helmets marked with alien glyphs. The leader's eyes glowed behind his mask. "This area is under quarantine," the soldier said. "We're searching for an escaped specimen." Evan frowned, pretending confusion. "Specimen? You mean an animal?" The soldier tilted his head slightly. "Something like that. Did you see anyone unusual tonight?" Evan shrugged. "Only the rain." The soldier stared at him for a long second. Then he looked past him into the apartment. "We'll scan the room." Evan stepped aside, trying to stay calm. The other soldiers moved in, their scanners buzzing faintly. Each pulse of light made his stomach tighten. The jammer on the window blinked faster, struggling. One soldier paused near the couch. He bent down, picking up the towel Rain had used. For a moment, Evan thought it was over. Then the soldier sniffed, frowned, and threw it back down. "Nothing organic detected," he said. The leader turned to Evan. "Stay indoors. If you see anyone different, report it immediately." "Sure," Evan said. "You'll be the first to know." They left. The hallway went silent again, except for the fading echo of boots. Evan closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. The jammer gave one last weak flash and died. He rushed to the vent. "Rain," he whispered. "It's safe." A soft voice came from the darkness. "I didn't think humans could lie so well." He smiled faintly. "Guess we're full of surprises." She crawled back out, her silver hair messy, her eyes tired. "You could have let them take me." "I could have," he said. "But I didn't." For a moment they stood in silence, the sound of the storm filling the room. Rain looked toward the window, where the sky glowed faint blue with distant lightning. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "They never do," Evan nodded. "Then we'll keep moving." Her gaze met his, half fear, half hope. "You're not like other humans." He smiled tiredly. "Maybe I'm just bad at minding my own business." Outside, another lightning strike split the sky, revealing shadows of ships circling above the colony. The hunt wasn't over. It had only begun, and for the first time Evan realized he wasn't just helping a stranger. He was standing against an entire empire. The storm outside had not stopped since midnight. Lightning flashed over the colony roofs, painting the sky white for a heartbeat, and then plunging everything back into darkness. Evan looked through the cracks of his window blinds. The search drones were back, more of them now flying low, scanning every alley and rooftop. Their red lights swept across the walls like searching eyes. Rain stood near the door, silent and tense. She had tied her wet hair back with a strip of cloth, and her silver skin reflected faint flickers from the lightning outside. Her eyes glowed faint blue, worried but sharp. "They've doubled the patrols," she whispered. "They know I'm still here," Evan nodded. "Then we move now." He packed a few small tools, a portable battery, and a folded blanket into his bag. He didn't really know where they would go, but he knew staying meant capture, or worse. Rain hesitated, looking toward the small couch where she had slept. "You'll lose your home," she said softly. Evan gave a small smile. It was never much of a home anyway. She stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, I'll follow you." They left through the back stairwell, stepping quietly down the narrow steps. The air smelled of rust and oil. Water dripped from pipes above, echoing down the walls. When they reached the street, Evan paused. The rain had turned into a thick mist, almost silver under the glow of the street lamps. The colony city looked strange and ghostly. Steel buildings half buried in fog, neon signs flickering through the wet air. "Stay close," Evan whispered. Rain kept her hood up, her face hidden. They moved fast through the alleyways, avoiding main streets. Every time a drone light passed overhead, they pressed against walls or ducked under awnings. But their luck ran out near the old transport yard. A low, mechanical growl came from behind them. Evan turned and saw a dark shape rising through the mist. A hunter drone, larger than the rest, its red scanner sweeping the street. "Run," he hissed. They sprinted through the rain, splashing through puddles. The drone's lights followed, locking onto their movement. It released a blinding beam that hit the ground inches from Rain's feet. The concrete cracked from the heat. Evan pulled her behind a truck and activated his jammer again. The small device blinked weakly but still gave off a pulse. The drone's scanner glitched for a moment and its light dimmed. "This way," Evan said, pulling her toward a narrow passage between two storage buildings. They squeezed through, barely fitting. The passage led into an abandoned subway tunnel, dark, dripping, and filled with the smell of old fuel. Rain stumbled, her breathing fast. "They won't stop," she said. "That model hunts until the target is gone." Evan looked back toward the faint red glow approaching through the mist. "Then we make it lose interest." He dug into his bag and pulled out a small tool, a signal flare. He twisted the cap and threw it far down another path. The bright spark shot off like a comet, landing in a puddle and hissing with steam. The drone immediately turned, chasing the false heat signature. Rain looked at him in surprise. "You're clever for a dock worker." "Guess I learn fast when people are trying to kill me," Evan said, half smiling. They moved deeper into the tunnels. The rain outside faded to a faint echo above them. Pipes rattled softly as they passed. After several turns, they found an old maintenance room, dusty but safe for now. Rain sat down on a crate, exhausted. "I don't understand you," she said quietly. "Humans have hunted my kind for years. Why would you risk everything for me?" Evan leaned against the wall, wiping water from his face. "Because you were standing in the rain, trying to clean yourself while everyone walked away. I couldn't be one of them." Her eyes softened. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," he said, "but not tonight." For a long time, neither spoke. Only the soft hum of power cables filled the silence. Then suddenly a distant explosion echoed through the tunnel. The ground shook slightly. Rain's head snapped up. "They're sealing exits. They'll trap us here," Evan cursed under his breath. "Then we find another way out." He grabbed a map from the wall, faded but still readable. "There's an old shaft that connects to the city's storm drains," he said. "It leads to the river. If we reach it, they'll lose our trail in the water." Rain stood, determination flashing in her glowing eyes. "Then let's go." They hurried through the tunnel, their footsteps splashing through shallow puddles. Behind them, the red glow returned. The hunter drone had found their trail again, and this time it wasn't alone. "Faster," Evan shouted. Rain's breathing grew heavy, but she didn't stop. Ahead, the tunnel opened to a circular shaft filled with rushing water. A single ladder led down into the darkness. Evan climbed first, then helped her down. The drone's beam hit the wall behind them just as they disappeared into the drain. The blast shook the air, throwing sparks around them. They splashed into the cold water below, gasping. The current was strong, but it carried them away. Out of sight. Out of reach. As they drifted through the underground river, Rain looked at Evan, soaked and bleeding from a cut on his arm. "You could have left me," she said softly. He smiled faintly through the pain. "Yeah, but then who'd keep you out of the rain?" Her lips curved into a weak smile, the first real one since he met her. Above them, the colony lights flickered through the storm. The hunt wasn't over, but for now, they were free. The underground river carried them far from the city lights. The storm's roar faded, replaced by the steady echo of dripping water and the hum of old machinery. Evan and Rain finally pulled themselves out onto a cracked concrete ledge. Both were soaked and shivering. Evan sat down, catching his breath. His arm was bleeding where sharp metal had cut him during the escape. Rain knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she tore a strip from her sleeve and wrapped it around his wound. "You're hurt," she said softly. "I've been worse," he muttered, trying to smile. But when he looked at her, he saw something deeper in her eyes and guilt. He frowned. "You're not telling me everything, are you?" Rain froze for a second, her glowing eyes flickering faintly. "I didn't want to involve you," she whispered. "But you deserve to know." Evan leaned back against the wall. "Then tell me." For a long time she said nothing. The sound of the water echoed around them, heavy and lonely. Finally she took a deep breath. "My name isn't Rain," she began. "It's Lizera. I was a scientist for the Oralis Empire, the same one hunting me now." Evan raised his eyebrows. "A scientist?" She nodded. "I worked in bioengineering. They ordered me to create something, a virus that would weaken human DNA during interbreeding. They called it the Purity Program." Evan stared at her in shock. "They wanted to destroy humans?" "Not destroy," she said quietly. "Control. They believed humans were spreading too fast, taking planets that belonged to other races. They wanted to make humans sterile over generations. Peaceful extinction." Evan's stomach turned. "And you refused?" Her voice broke slightly. "I couldn't do it. I saw what it would mean. Children born to die, families disappearing. I argued, but no one listened. So I destroyed my research and fled." She looked down, her silver hair falling over her face. "They called me a traitor. They burned my lab and erased my name from their records. Now I'm nothing to them, nothing but a fugitive." Evan sat in silence for a long time. The dripping water was the only sound. He tried to imagine what it meant. One alien woman standing against an empire. "They'll never forgive you for that," he said finally. "I don't need forgiveness," she replied. "I just need to stop them from finishing what I started." Evan's eyes narrowed. "You mean the research still exists?" Lysera nodded. "They rebuilt it. I destroyed the main system, but they recovered fragments. If they complete it, millions will suffer. I know where they're hiding the final data core. Where? She looked at him, hesitation clear on her face. Sector 7, inside the orbiting lab called the Spire. It's protected by both soldiers and AI guardians. I tried to reach it once, failed. Evan rubbed his forehead. You're saying if you get there, you can stop it? I can delete everything, she said. But I need human access codes. They built part of the system from stolen human tech. He sighed deeply. You're asking a dock worker to hack a military fortress in space. A faint smile touched her lips. You're not just a dock worker. You repaired a military jammer, outsmarted a hunter drone, and lied to armed soldiers without blinking. I think you're more capable than you believe. Evan looked at her, surprised. Her tone wasn't mocking, it was sincere. For the first time he saw not just fear in her eyes, but trust. Even if we reach it, he said quietly, you'll be hunted every step of the way. I already am, she whispered. Silence settled between them again. The faint hum of the tunnel sounded like a heartbeat in the dark. Evan finally stood up, tightening his bag. Then we'll need transport and a plan. Lysra looked at him. You're helping me? He shrugged. You said you destroyed something meant to wipe us out. I owe you for that. Besides, if what you say is true, this isn't just your fight anymore. She stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time. You're risking your life for someone your kind should hate. Evan gave a small smile. Maybe hate's not what humans are best at. For the first time, Lysra laughed quietly, a soft sound almost musical. It echoed gently through the tunnel. She helped him to his feet. Then we go to the Spire, he nodded. But first we need to reach the old skyport outside the colony. There's a pilot there who owes me a favor. If he's still alive. They started walking again, deeper into the tunnel. The light from Evan's wrist lamp cast long shadows on the walls, stretching like ghosts. As they walked, Lysra whispered almost to herself, maybe humans and my people aren't so different after all. Evan looked at her. Maybe not. But we'll need both to survive what's coming. Above them in the storming sky, distant thunder rolled, not from weather this time, but from ships entering the atmosphere. The Empire had sent more hunters. Their time was running out. The tunnels shook with distant thunder, but it wasn't the sound of rain anymore. It was engines, heavy and sharp, echoing through the steel bones of the colony. Evan and Lysra stopped as a faint red light pulsed across the walls. The hum of patrol ships above had changed. Something big had arrived. They've brought ground troops, Lysra whispered. They're sealing every exit. Evan adjusted his bag, trying to calm his breathing. Then we'll make our own exit. They moved quickly through the narrow path, water splashing at their feet. The air was heavy, thick with humidity and fear. Pipes above hissed with steam. Somewhere far behind they could hear voices, mechanical, cold, precise. The hunters were closing in. After half an hour of walking, they reached a wide chamber filled with old machines. It had once been a maintenance hub, now abandoned and silent. Rusted control panels and broken cables lay scattered everywhere. Evan checked his wrist lamp. We can rest here for a minute, he said. Lysra nodded but stayed alert. Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling, scanning the shadows. They'll track the heat we left behind. We don't have long. Evan sat down beside a broken power conduit. His shoulders still throbbed from the earlier wound, but he forced himself to stay focused. Lysra moved toward a shattered console and began working. Her slender fingers glided over the controls, sparks jumping beneath her touch. What are you doing? Evan asked. Trying to disable their locator grid, she said. If I can scramble the signal for even 5 minutes, we can reach the surface unnoticed. She was fast, too fast for someone exhausted. Evan watched her hands glow faintly as alien symbols scrolled across the old screen. Then, suddenly, the panel beeped sharply. Lysra froze. No, she breathed. They've already linked the local network. What does that mean? Before she could answer, the entire chamber lit up with red light. The air vibrated with a low hum. A metallic voice echoed through the tunnel. Deep, commanding, merciless. Subject Lysra detected. All units converge. Evan jumped to his feet. We need to move! Lysra grabbed her pack, but before they could run, a blast of energy hit the tunnel entrance. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. Dust rained from above. Out of the smoke, 3 armored soldiers stepped forward, their visors glowing blood red. They moved with perfect coordination, rifles raised. Evan pulled Lysera behind a fallen beam. "Stay down." One of the soldiers fired. The beam tore through the metal beside them, leaving a glowing scar. Lysera's eyes flared with panic. "They won't miss again." Evan scanned the room and spotted a half-broken power cell nearby. He grabbed a pipe from the floor, pried the cell loose, and tossed it toward the soldiers. As it hit the ground, he shot it with his small pulse pistol. The explosion filled the chamber with blinding light and smoke. The soldiers stumbled for a second. "Run!" he yelled. They dashed through the side tunnel, but one soldier recovered fast and fired again. The beam grazed Evan's side. Pain burned through his ribs. He fell to one knee but kept moving. Lysera turned back to help him, but he shouted, "Go!"
"Don't stop!"
She hesitated, eyes wide with fear. "I won't leave you." Evan forced himself to his feet, gripping the wall for support. "You have to reach that ship, Lysera. You're the only one who can stop them." Another blast hit the tunnel wall beside them, showering them with sparks. Evan turned, aiming his pistol. His hands shook, but his aim was steady enough. He fired twice. One shot hit a soldier's helmet, cracking it open. The soldier fell. The others advanced, their glowing eyes cold. "Stay behind me," Evan said, stepping forward. Lysera grabbed his arm. "You'll die if you fight them alone." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but not before they remember who humans are." She stared at him, at the tired, soaked, bloodied man who refused to give up. And something changed in her. The second soldier raised his rifle. Evan had no time to dodge. But before the shot came, Lysera lifted her hand. Her eyes turned bright white, glowing like twin stars. A wave of energy burst from her palm, invisible but strong. It hit the soldiers like a storm. Their armor sparked, systems shorted, and they collapsed to the floor, twitching. The air crackled with static, and silence followed. Evan blinked in disbelief. "What was that?" Lysera's voice shook. "Something I swore never to use again. My neural interface. It's not meant for attack. It can kill me if I push too hard." Evan moved closer and steadied her as she nearly collapsed. "You just saved us," he said quietly. "That's what matters." Her breath trembled. "You don't understand, Evan. They'll sense the power discharge. Reinforcements will come. Then we'll be gone before they do." He helped her up, his arm around her shoulders. She looked up at him, her eyes softer now, full of something more than fear. "You risked everything for me," she whispered. Evan smiled weakly. "You did the same." They moved forward together through the dark, leaving behind the wreckage and the fallen soldiers. As they reached the next corridor, a faint glow appeared at the end, moonlight filtering through a broken grate. The surface was close. Lysera stopped for a second, breathing heavily. "You can still turn back, Evan. Once I reach the spire, they'll hunt harder." He looked at her, determination in his eyes. "I started this when I opened my door to you. I'm finishing it." For a moment, neither spoke. Then she nodded. They stepped into the cold night air, wind rushing against their faces. The colony lights shimmered in the distance, half hidden by fog and rain. Behind them, alarms echoed through the tunnels, a chorus of rage and metal. Ahead of them, the path to the spire waited, dangerous, impossible, and their only hope. And as they disappeared into the storm, the human and the alien walked side by side, two fugitives bound by one truth. They were no longer just running to survive. They were fighting for the right to exist together. The storm over the colony never stopped. Lightning flickered across the clouds like veins of fire, and thunder rolled deep across the sky. Evan and Lysera climbed the last ridge before dawn, soaked to the bone, clothes torn, faces streaked with exhaustion. In the distance, above the mist, a silver tower pierced the clouds, the spire. It floated like a blade of glass hanging in the air, wrapped in rings of blue light. Shuttles rose and fell around it like insects circling a flame. "That's it," Lysera said softly. "The heart of the Empire's data core." Evan looked at it and exhaled. "Looks friendly enough," she gave him a tired smile. "Once we're inside, it'll take me 6 minutes to reach the control center. You'll have to keep them off me until then." He grinned faintly. 6 minutes? That's an eternity. They moved through the ruins below the spire. Security drones floated in the distance, scanning the ground. Evan and Lysera hid behind a fallen cargo skiff. Lysera placed a small metal disc on the ground, one of her last working devices. It hummed softly, projecting a holographic shimmer over them. "Cloak field," she whispered. "Short range, short time." When a patrol passed, their outlines blurred, invisible in the rain. As soon as the drones left, they ran toward the lift terminal that connected the surface to the spire. The platform was old and rusted, but still powered. Lysera hacked the controls, her glowing fingers leaving trails of light on the keypad. The lift rose silently, cutting through the storm, carrying them high above the city until the lights below became distant stars. Through the glass floor, Evan saw the colony shrink beneath them, small, fragile, human. Lysera stood beside him, wind pulling her silver hair. "When this is over," she said quietly, "they'll call you a criminal." "Wouldn't be the first time," he said, smirking. She looked at him, her expression soft. "You could still walk away," he shook his head. "I think I passed that exit a long time ago." The lift docked with a faint hiss. The doors opened to a vast corridor of polished metal, walls shining with shifting alien symbols. The spire felt alive, a machine that breathed. Lysera led the way. She walked quickly, barefoot and silent. Evan followed, his boots echoing faintly behind her. Suddenly, alarms flared red. The air filled with sharp, cold sound. "They know we're here," Evan said. Lysera didn't slow. "Then we move faster." They reached a circular chamber with a glowing console at its center. Blue energy pulsed through the floor like veins. "This is it," she said. "Keep them back." Evan took position near the doorway. He could already hear the heavy boots of soldiers approaching. Lysera placed both hands on the console. Streams of alien code filled the air around her, floating like fireflies. Her eyes glowed white as she worked, faster than human eyes could follow. Then the first soldier appeared. Evan fired. The plasma bolt hit the wall near the soldier's head, forcing him back. 2 more followed. Evan ducked behind a column, firing again. Sparks flew. The air filled with the smell of ozone and burning metal. 2 minutes, Lysera shouted, her voice echoing through the chamber. Evan reloaded. "We don't have 2. A beam of light grazed his shoulder. He fell, rolling behind the console. Pain shot through his body, but he kept moving. The soldiers advanced. Lysera's breathing turned ragged. "The system is resisting. It's fighting me. Can you win?" he yelled. "I have to," she screamed. Light burst from her palms, flooding the room. The code twisted, collapsing into itself. The lights flickered and then silence. The console dimmed. The alarms went out. The soldiers froze mid-step as their armor powered down, collapsing like statues. Evan looked up, stunned. "You did it?" Lysera fell to her knees. "The virus data is gone. Every trace. The project is dead." He moved to her quickly, catching her before she hit the ground. Her skin was cold, her breathing weak. "You're burning yourself out," he said urgently. She smiled faintly, her voice a whisper. "Worth it. The universe is safe now." "Don't say that," he said, gripping her hand. "You're coming back with me." Her fingers brushed his cheek. "You gave me something no one ever did, Evan." He blinked, eyes wet from the rising smoke and tears he wouldn't admit to. "What's that?" "Choice." Her hand slipped from his, falling limp. For a moment, time stood still. The only sound was the hum of distant thunder outside. Evan held her close, unable to move. The spire glowed faintly around them, as if mourning her too. Then the station's AI voice filled the silence. "Unauthorized access detected. System reboot in 60 seconds, Evan looked up. He knew what that meant. The spire would purge itself. Everything inside it would be destroyed. He lifted Lysera into his arms. "Not today," he whispered. He ran back to the lift, the floor trembling beneath his feet. The storm raged outside, wind slamming against the glass. As the doors closed, fire erupted behind him, white blinding light swallowing the spire. The lift dropped fast, crashing down through smoke and lightning. When it finally hit the ground, the doors burst open and Evan stumbled out, coughing. Above him, the spire cracked apart, breaking into 1,000 glowing fragments that rained across the sky like falling stars. He looked up through the storm, still holding her. The rain washed the soot from his face. He whispered, "You did it, Rain. You really did." Weeks later, the news spread across the colonies. The Oralis Empire signed a peace accord with Earth. The weapon project was gone, and no one knew the name of the human who helped make it happen. Evan sat alone by the riverside where the story began, watching the rain fall. Beside him, a small metal pendant lay in his palm, engraved with alien words he couldn't read. He smiled faintly. Guess you got your shower after all. Lightning flashed across the sky, and for a second he thought he saw her, a silhouette in silver light, watching over him. Then she was gone and only the rain remained.